Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is a book haul for July of 2023. So, I have been trying to slow down on my book acquisitions. I don't want to get too out of control with however many books that I have and not be able to keep up with reading. But due to certain circumstances, I've picked up some newer books. So I figured I'd show them off now. I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got like 6 books here. So it's not too big of a haul, but figured I'd show them. If you've read any of these and can let me know what to expect, I'd certainly love to hear about that. So let's begin. It's a decent mix here. The first one, I'll do the first one because it's heavy. And this is The Reopening of the Western Mind, The Resurgence of Intellectual Life, from the End of Antiquity to the Dawn of the Enlightenment by Charles Freeman. Somebody's written quite a few things. So I got this from a local bookshop, and it's, like I said, it's heavy because it's got like those kind of nice laminate pages and a lot of full color illustrations in here that are very cool. Let me see, just kind of, I mean, these, a lot of that stuff, and punctuated, of course, with text and history. So essentially, this is about, the Western mind opening up again. I think especially in its, from what I understood from the flap, it's kind of opening it up in a way. What he means by that is becoming secular. I do think that this is more about a journey into more secular thought from religious thought. So basically going from St. Augustine to something like Descartes, or, some of the more, the more Enlightenment philosophers as you continue going. So I think that's kind of what's being tracked here, which is something that I am quite interested in. I do have an interest in intellectual history, but the thing that interests me most with that is actually the development of secularism. And, I've always been very curious about skepticism and doubt and atheism, things like that. So books that deal with that kind of thing definitely interest me. So this book, like I said, it's big and it's heavy. I'm going to put it down because it is actually quite heavy. But I will get to that at some point. Maybe next year's Historathon, possibly. We will see. But I know I'm not going to jump into it just now. But when I saw that, especially how beautiful it was, I knew I had to have it. Okay, another book that I recently got. This is Contemporary Costa Rican Poetry, a bilingual anthology. And this was published by the International University of Costa Rica and also Indiana University of Pennsylvania, which I'd never heard of. And that, trying to put those two things together makes my brain hurt a little bit. Indiana University of Pennsylvania. I don't know. I'm sure it's well known to a lot of people, but I just wasn't familiar with it. But they collaborated to put this together. And it is interesting because it is a bilingual text. So you have the Spanish on one side, the English on the other. And these are all poems that have been published since 1990. And I got this because I am taking part, I think this is the third time this is happening, in a World Cup reading event. So Mark from Book Time with Elvis, he's done this. I think we did it for, actually, this might be the fourth time. I think it's actually the fourth time that we've done this. So I think he did it for the Euros, he did it for the Africa Cup, and then for the World Cup. And now we have Women's World Cup coming up. And essentially, those who are participating, a country that is participating inside the World Cup is randomly drawn for you, and you follow that country. And you read something from or about that country. And if your country is beaten by another country, you read something from or about that other country. So it's just a way to, expand your reading and read things from around the world. I had, you can tell, gotten Costa Rica. I didn't know a lot. I mean, I know something about Costa Rica. I'd never been there, but I know that for a Central American country, it is very successful, especially compared to its neighbors. It has been a pioneer in ecotourism and sustainability. So I was trying to find some more information on that, but I couldn't quite find something that would really be beneficial to me in this moment. But I found this on Amazon for it was $5. And I like poetry, and I thought, that'd be cool. I can kind of read some of the Spanish, read some of the English. I have an elementary understanding of Spanish. I can speak on a very basic level, but if you get some beers in me, I get a little bit better at it. It's a little bit like riding a bike. You got to use it. But, when I went to Spain and Ecuador, my Spanish kept getting better and better as I went, and especially if you started feeding me alcohol, I got almost fluent. So, it'd be nice to kind of go back and forth with these things. But that is my pick for the reading event, the Reading the World for Women's World Cup. Okay, the next two I picked up at Borders. I had a student of mine who very kindly, before school ended, gave me a gift certificate for Barnes & Noble. I hope I said Barnes & Noble. Did I say Borders? I don't know what I said, but Barnes & Noble. And she said, with that gift certificate, because she knew I had a booktube channel, she said to show the books and let people know that the student who got it for me was a ginger. That is very important to her, apparently. So I have done my due diligence. So these two books I had gotten with the gift certificate, or at least in part. First one is The AngloSaxons, A History of the Beginnings of England, 400 to 1066 by Mark Morse. Anybody who's watched my channel for any length of time probably knows that I do love Norse history, and also I do like Anglo-Saxon history. I am actually quite fascinated by especially the Godwin family, Godwin dynasty, that King Harold Godwinson was a part of, who fell in 1066. That's one of my favorite families to read about. But I do like Anglo-Saxon history. I love the sound of Old English language. But I don't have enough books on just Anglo-Saxons. I have some specific books on certain types or certain aspects of their culture, or their history. But I don't have like an overall survey history to really guide me. So I thought this would be a good pick for that. So that's why I got that. So this might be a read for next year's Historathon. Historathon, I should probably mention now, is I don't think I said it before, is a year-long reading event where we read, discuss, and celebrate nonfiction history. We divide the year up into 4 quarters. Each quarter is 3 months long, and it looks at a different period of history. So quarter 2 is where we look at the years 500 CE to 1500, which is where this would fall into. So maybe next year for quarter 2, I will read this one. I also picked up at Barnes & Noble this. I got the bookmark in there still. I didn't start reading it. They just stuck it in there when I bought it. So Storm of Steel by Ernst Junger. I had been talking about this with a friend of mine who was reading it, and he really recommended it. One of the things about Ernst Junger, from my understanding of this, is that he was very excited to be in war. This is not typical of a lot of the World War I literature that we get that is, basically anti-war. It seems like this author, this is a memoir, basically of his time in World War I. He was in his element, and he seemed to love it. So that's what my understanding is. So it'd be an interesting, basically on the other end of the spectrum from something like All Quiet on the Western Front, which is not a memoir, which is a work of fiction. But it'll be interesting to see. There's always those people in war. You might have the majority of people come out with like PTSD and be horrified by the things that they saw and the things they did, and all the experiences they had. But there's always that element in war of people who just love it and who eat it up, and people often those people don't know what to do with themselves when the war is over. So I'm guessing this is maybe going to be one of those guys. And the last 2 books I got as a part of Book Trek 2023. So as another reading event that I started, this is the 3rd year it's going on, where we basically read Star Trek fiction. And we're doing that for 3 months, June, July, and August. It is the summer of Trek. But in addition to reading Star Trek fiction, I have optional away missions also that are a part of it. One of the away missions is you can read nonfiction science. And the other thing is really just to read anything related to Trek in some way. So it might be production history, maybe biographies, maybe something written by somebody from Star Trek. Maybe it's a comical take on Star Trek. So it's basically stuff that's Star Trek adjacent that is not exactly Star Trek fiction. So it's just anything else to Star Trek, really. So I have two of those. The first one, which I think some of my other co-hosts are going to be reading, is this one, Night of the Living Trekkies. So it seems to be a Star Trek convention, and a zombie outbreak occurs. And you can see it looks like looks like Spock is maybe eating Kirk there, but they're still keeping their Trek pride, which is nice. So this looks like it'll just be fun, entertaining. You know, I'm expecting something fairly campy. We'll see. I don't know if that's what I'm going to get, but that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting something campy with this. This should just be a fun read. And the other thing that I got for the optional mission is this. Fan fiction by Brent Spiner. Brent Spiner played Commander Data, or Lieutenant Commander Data, in Star Trek The Next Generation. My favorite version of Star Trek. Not that I don't like the others, it just happens to be my favorite one. And he wrote this, and from what I understand, it's kind of like, it's inspired by, I guess, something that happened when they were making Next Gen, but this seems to be like a mystery on the set of Next Generation. So it's back when like Brent Spiner was actually doing the show, and he as an actor is getting, you know, I don't know, I think he's getting like weird messages or something like that, but he and other cast members, I think, are trying to solve it. It just sounds like it's going to be fun, especially for somebody who, you know, who really loves the show. And one of the great things about Next Gen also, I think, is that show, I think more than any of the others, the cast has a real camaraderie. They developed lifelong friendships. So you can see year after year that group constantly having a great time with each other at conventions and doing projects together. Unlike something like the original series, where you've got like George Takei hating William Shatner, and you know, it seems like nobody can get along with that cast. And it seems like some of the other iterations of Star Trek, people didn't really keep in touch as much as they did with Next Gen. So, you know, he's basically, it seems like, writing this from a place of love for his friends as well, and just basically putting his friends into a mystery. So, you know, this just sounds like a clear winner. And so that's why I picked up this one. So there we have it. There is my book haul. I don't expect to have another book haul for a while. I'm going to try and save my money this summer. But, you know, these are just the things that I had picked up over the past couple of weeks, at least. So we've got The Opening of the Western Mind, contemporary Costa Rican poetry, The AngloSaxons, Storm of Steel, The Living Trekkies, and fan fiction. If you've read any of these and can let me know what I can expect, I'd love to hear it. As always, thank you, booktube.